All right, today we're breaking down a massive $311 million power project happening right now in Kenya. And this isn't just about a big deal. We're going to dig into what this really means for contractors and suppliers who are on the lookout for their next major opportunity. So let's jump right in. You know, it's a fundamental question, right? How do you power a nation's economic future? It's the challenge every growing economy runs into, and it's exactly what Kenya is tackling head-on. If you want to industrialize, if you want to create new opportunities, well, you absolutely need stable, reliable electricity. So what happens when your ambition starts to outrun your power grid?
And look, for Kenya, this isn't some abstract theoretical problem. The country's economic goals are literally bumping up against the physical limits of its power grid. It's created this huge bottleneck, one that has to be fixed, and fast.
So let's get specific about what that means. We're talking about an unreliable grid that leads to frequent power outages. And that's a massive headache for businesses, not to mention just daily life. The grid also struggles to keep up with the demands of heavy industry, and it's just not strong enough to handle all the new renewable energy that's planned to come online. The bottom line is this: to really unlock its potential, Kenya has got to fix its grid. It's that simple. And that brings us to the solution. A massive deal has just been signed. And listen, this isn't just some small patch-up job. We're talking about a huge financial commitment designed to completely overhaul a massive chunk of the country's power system. The number? A staggering $311 million. I mean, just think about that for a second. This is a huge investment, and not just for Kenya, but really for the entire East African region. It's a massive signal that they are serious about upgrading their most critical infrastructure. Okay, so who are the key players here? Well, what's really interesting is how this whole thing is structured. It's what's called a public-private partnership. On one side, you've got the Kenyan government as the client, but leading the project is a joint venture. You have Power Grid Corporation of India, we'll call them PGCIL, they're bringing all the technical know-how, and then you have Africa50, which is this pan-African investment platform, and they're handling the money side. It's a really smart combo, right? Public oversight, world-class engineering, and African capital all working together. So the big question is, what does $311 million actually buy you? Let's get into the nuts and bolts of what this project is actually going to build and how it's all going to be managed. First, let's just quickly touch on the model itself. A public-private partnership, or PPP, what is that? Well, it's basically a long-term deal where private companies put up the money to build and run public projects. It's a way for the government to bring in international funding and expertise, but still keep control over assets that are, vital to the country. So this project, it covers the whole shebang, from start to finish. First, the joint venture is going to design two major high-voltage corridors. You can think of these like superhighways for electricity. They move a ton of power over long distances with very little waste. Then, of course, they'll build all the new transmission lines and substations. But here's the crucial part. This isn't a build it and leave it kind of deal. They are on the hook to operate and maintain all this new infrastructure for a long, long time. So they have to make sure it runs perfectly for years to come.
Okay, so the big deal is signed, the main players are all set. But here's where it gets really interesting, especially for a lot of you. This high-level agreement, it creates a whole cascade of real, actual business opportunities down the line.
Exactly. Because let's be real, PGCIL and Africa50 aren't going to build this thing all by themselves. A project this big needs a whole ecosystem of subcontractors, suppliers, and service partners to make it happen. This is where the real action is for a ton of other companies.
So let's break down who they're going to need. First up, you've got the big engineering, procurement, and construction firms, the EPCs, who will handle the main build. Then you need a whole army of suppliers for all the specialized grid and electrical gear. After that, you've got the subcontractors for all the civil work, literally putting up the towers. And think long-term too, they'll need partners for operations, maintenance, and technical services. And what's really cool is that there's a huge role here for local small and medium-sized businesses to handle things like logistics and site management. The range of opportunity is just massive.
All right, let's zoom back out for a minute, because this project is so much more than just concrete and steel. It's a really strategic investment. It's designed to fundamentally change Kenya's entire economic future and even its role in the whole region. Just think about the transformation here. You go from a before picture of constant, frustrating grid outages to an after with a much more resilient, stable grid. You move from a situation where economic growth is literally held back by the power supply to one where you can fully support huge industrial demand. And finally, you go from having a pretty isolated power system to building the groundwork for trading energy with your neighbors. This isn't just a small fix, it's a fundamental upgrade to the entire system.
You know, this whole project isn't just a win for Kenya. It's a powerful blueprint. It shows exactly how a country can team up with international partners to fund its most critical infrastructure. And that really leaves us with a fascinating question to think about. With this PPP model as a blueprint, which nation's infrastructure will be next?